Kirk Cousins is going to be a free agent after the end of this upcoming NFL season. And when the owner of the Minnesota Vikings was asked about Kirk Cousins' future and where they were at in terms of him getting a new contract, he didn't really have too much to say. He kind of said it's on the general manager and head coach Kevin Stefanski to decide what Kirk Cousins' future is with the Minnesota Vikings. Now, Kirk is 34 years old. He's had a lot of success with the Minnesota Vikings ever since he signed with them back in 2018. But you got to ask yourself, what has Kirk Cousins done in the postseason? Is Kirk Cousins the guy who can lead the Minnesota Vikings over the top? I love Kirk Cousins, and I love him even more after watching him on the Netflix quarterback documentary. But watching that Netflix documentary made me realize something. Some quarterbacks, i.e. Patrick Mahomes, are just that guy. Meanwhile, you have guys like Kirk Cousins who they put in all the work, they try as hard as possible to improve their game, and they perform at a really high level, but in big moments and big games, they just can't get it done. Doesn't mean they're a terrible player, doesn't mean they're not good. It just means that in high pressure moments, they don't come through more times than not. And for the Minnesota Vikings, you have a pretty good team. Your defense is a little bit of a question mark, but overall, when you think about the outlook of the Minnesota Vikings for the foreseeable future, with Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, and a pretty solid offensive line, you should be able to compete for a Super Bowl depending on if you land the right quarterback. You see, the problem with Kirk Cousins is that he's good enough to get you there. He's not good enough to get you over the hump. You see, in the NFL, we have this narrative that every quarterback can win a Super Bowl, which may seem true when we think about guys who've won Super Bowls in the past who weren't considered to be elite. Joe Flacco comes to mind. Even Jimmy Garoppolo, although he came short in the Super Bowl with the 49ers a couple of years back, he still was good enough to get them there. But when you have a Patrick Mahomes, or you have a Justin Herbert, or Joe Burrow, or Josh Allen, it gives you a better chance at being able to get to the big game because those players can make the biggest plays in the biggest moments of the game. And Kirk Cousins, way too often, with the Minnesota Vikings, in big moments, he's came up small. You remember against the New York Giants when they lost to Daniel Jones, fam, in a wild card round? I won't forget that. I will never forget. It's 4th and long, game on the line. Minnesota is trying to keep their season alive. And what does Kirk Cousins do? Instead of just saying, F it, game on the line, we need to do whatever we can to keep this game alive, I'm just going to throw it deep and give Justin Jefferson, the best receiver in the NFL, a chance to make a play. But instead of doing that, Kirk Cousins says, nah, I'm going to check it down 4 yards to TJ Hawkinson, who was nowhere close to getting the first down. You got to ask yourself if you're a Vikings fan. Kirk Cousins, good quarterback, but can you do better? There's an old saying that goes, if you can do better, do better. And with the quarterback options that are going to be available next year, there aren't really a lot that really give you a lot of optimism and say, oh yeah, like they can be better than Kirk Cousins. But I do think when you look at all of the upcoming young quarterbacks that we have potentially in the 2024 NFL draft, there's going to be a lot of them. You could get a Bo Nix, Michael Penix, Quinn Ewers, Joe Milton without having to give up a fortune to trade up into the top 5 to get one of them. I'm looking at Kirk Cousins, and he's not a bad quarterback, but I don't think he's good enough to get you over the hump. And he's proven that time in and time out. So when it comes to his future in Minnesota, I don't know if he's going to end up coming back. I doubt he comes back to Minnesota. Minnesota probably could do a lot worse than Kirk Cousins. He is a top 12, top 13 quarterback in the game, but in today's NFL, you got to have a great quarterback if you want to increase your chances of being able to win a Super Bowl. If you want to maximize your championship opportunity, You got to find somebody who can get it done in those crucial moments. Justin Herbert, he's been able to come through on plenty of occasions for the LA Chargers. Yeah, that wild card loss was really ugly, and we do have to give him some blame for that. Elite quarterbacks step up in the biggest moments. Kirk Cousins had some big moments last season, like that comeback against the Indianapolis Colts. But what happened in the playoffs when the game was on the line and they needed Captain Kirk to step up and elevate this team? He wasn't able to do it. Maybe Kyler Murray could be an upgrade from Kirk Cousins. Now, you would have to work out, something with the contract, but I think that you could get Kyler Murray with only having to give up a first-round pick. And Kyler Murray is a really good quarterback. I don't think he's washed. Prior to last season, he was a top 10 quarterback coming off several Pro Bowl seasons. People make it seem like Kyler Murray is a bust. Kyler Murray is one of the best quarterbacks in the league when he's healthy. And even though he's coming off a devastating ACL injury, he probably won't have the same athleticism now that he did post-injury or pre-injury. I still think with an offensive mind as talented as Kevin Stefanski, he'll be able to have Kyler Murray playing at a really high level. And Kyler Murray, when he's at his best, he's better than Kirk Cousins. And plus, he brings more to the table. Mobility, the ability to extend plays, buy time for receivers to get open. These are all things that Kirk Cousins simply doesn't have. Kirk Cousins, really good quarterback, really great person, on and off the field. This is somebody that you'd love to have in your locker room because he's all business, no nonsense. This dude literally lets his wife pick his clothes because he'd rather use that time to dedicate towards studying film and honing his game. He has A1 work ethic, but watching the Netflix quarterback documentary made me realize that you can put in all the work and still not be anywhere close to as good as what Patrick Mahomes is. Some things are just a gift by God. Patrick Mahomes, the ability that he has is rare. It's a blessing. Yes, he did work hard to get to the point that he is right now, but some of that talent he was just born with. Kirk Cousins isn't as talented as a Patrick Mahomes. And when you look at the AFC right now, the teams that are going the furthest have the best quarterbacks. The teams that go the furthest in the postseason have good quarterbacks. The teams that come up short in the Super Bowl over the last couple of years had worse quarterback play than the team that they lost to. Outside of, the Philadelphia Eagles and the Kansas City Chiefs, because both of those quarterbacks were fantastic in that game. Jalen Hurts is on his way to becoming a top 3 quarterback potentially this year, and Mahomes is the best in the game. Arguably the greatest quarterback of this generation right now. But you look at the NFC, and if you're Minnesota, you're looking at all these other teams who have quarterbacks around the same skill range as Kirk Cousins, like Geno Smith with the Seahawks and Jared Goff with the Detroit Lions. And you got an opportunity to get ahead of those teams by elevating the talent that you have at quarterback. I.e., you draft a rookie, or you end up trading for Kyler Murray. Now, if you want to let Kirk Cousins go because you want to have more money to allocate to the salary cap, so you can give Justin Jefferson the contract that he deserves, being the highest paid non-quarterback in the league, understandable. You could bring in a rookie quarterback. Having a rookie quarterback that's good offers you a lot of flexibility because you got more money to spend at other positions to build up your team. And the Minnesota Vikings do a pretty good job at drafting and developing talent. So I trust them to be able to draft the right quarterback. I'm looking at Kirk Cousins. He's not bad. He can continue to get you to the playoffs. He can win you a couple more division titles. He's only 34 years old. We see guys like Brady, Rodgers playing into their 40s. Kirk Cousins still has 8-7 years left in the tank of pretty good football, but I don't know if he has any years of high quality football where he can get you over the hump, when he can outdo a Jalen Hurts or outdo a Patrick Mahomes or Joe Burrow in the Super Bowl. You see, the league has changed, people. It's changed. Look how oversaturated the quarterback market is right now. People consider Justin Fields to be a bust. Thinking about the season he had last year, a decade ago, people would view Justin Fields as a top 15 quarterback. It's crazy how saturated the quarterback position has become in the NFL. And the teams that are advancing the furthest are the teams that get the better play out of their QBs, who are able to get their quarterbacks to step up in big moments. Look at Trevor Lawrence. He threw 4 interceptions to start out that game against the Chargers. Came out in the second half and halftime, and he came back with 4 touchdowns. You see, that's what you're looking for in the franchise quarterback, a guy who can overcome adversity in the postseason. Kirk Cousins, I don't think he handles adversity all that well. He tends to be a guy who kind of starts to second guess himself. He can be indecisive at times, and he can kind of lack confidence in himself. These are not the kinds of things that equate to a quarterback that can get you over the top. When Jalen Hurts threw that interception in the Super Bowl, or he had that fumble that got scooped up by Nick Bolton, I forgot if it was an interception or a fumble, but all I remember is that Jalen Hurts did something, and Nick Bolton scooped it up and turned it to the house for 6. Following drive, you know what Jalen Hurts did? He came back on the field and led Philadelphia on a touchdown drive. That's what you want to see out of your quarterback. You want to see resiliency. You want to see toughness. You want to see grit. And I'm not saying that Kirk Cousins lacks these things, but I'm saying in comparison to Jalen Hurts, Mahomes, Joe Burrow, he doesn't have it enough to get you to the top. And that's why I kind of think that the Minnesota Vikings have been non-committal to Kirk Cousins long-term in terms of giving him an extension. Like, look, the Dallas Cowboys, for example, are already working on getting a new contract for Dak Prescott. When a team wants you and they know you're the guy, they have no reluctancy to extend you. There's no, we'll have to see about it. It's up to the GM and the head coach. Like, when the team likes you and they believe in you, they get your deal done ASAP. With Kirk Cousins, though, the Minnesota Vikings front office is okay with allowing this to be settled in March, which is around the time free agency begins. And the fact that the Minnesota Vikings aren't really planning on doing anything with Kirk Cousins and coming to the table with them on a new extension until March kind of shows you what they feel about Kirk Cousins. If he was our priority and they viewed him in a high regard, not saying they review him in a low regard, but if they really believed in Kirk Cousins being able to be their franchise quarterback after this season long term, I felt he would have already been extended. Look how fast other quarterbacks have gotten extensions. Dak Prescott is getting paid a lot of money, and they're about to give him another re-up on his contract because they believe in him. They think he's the guy. When a team believes in you, they don't hesitate to extend you. There's a lot of hesitation with Kirk Cousins. I've never seen an owner that says, we don't know when it comes to the future of the current guy we have at QB, if they believe in him. When you have a owner that believes in the quarterback, they come out and they publicly show their support for him, and they say, yeah, we're going to get a deal done. Did the Cincinnati Bengals and the LA Chargers say, that's up to the head coaches and the GM to decide what their futures are going to be? No. They said, we're going to get a deal done with those guys because these are our quarterbacks. Same thing with Jalen Hurts in Philadelphia. Some people may say that the Philadelphia Eagles gave Jalen Hurts the bag way too soon. After one great season, some may say that they might have had to see Jalen Hurts perform at a higher level for at least another season before they would have dished out that hefty salary that they gave him. You want to know why they rushed to give Jalen Hurts an extension? Because they believe in him. Even the Ravens believe in Lamar. And he's had injury concerns over the last 2 years. He's missed the second half of the season for 2 straight years in a row, and yet they still extended him. You want to know why? Because they believe in him. They believe that he's the guy. But Kirk Cousins, it doesn't seem like there's the same amount of belief for him that other organizations have for their franchise quarterbacks. Like I said, Kirk Cousins is not a bad quarterback. He's a really good quarterback. But with the way the NFL is going now, good may not be good enough. Instead of good, you may need great. What was Jalen Hurts and Patrick Mahomes? Great. Matthew Stafford and Joe Burrow, what were they that year? Great. You need great quarterback play if you want to be able to be a championship football team in today's NFL. I'm looking at Matthew Stafford. There's a reason why the Rams felt like he was an upgrade over Jared Goff, who took them to a Super Bowl not too long before that. That tells you everything you need to know about the current state of the quarterback market in the NFL. These coaches aren't okay with just good. They're looking for great. Geno Smith has the potential to be great with what's around him. Kirk Cousins has a really talented offense, and he puts up fantastic numbers in the regular season. But in the postseason, when it matters the most and where legends are made, this is where Kirk Cousins comes up small. Legends are made in the postseason. How people remember you is what you do in the playoffs. That's why these narratives about Dak Prescott, Kirk Cousins, and Lamar Jackson get thrown around a lot, because they haven't had a lot of success in the postseason. But the guys who have had success in the postseason, it's altered their careers. Think about Joe Flacco. Nobody really felt Joe Flacco was a great quarterback until he led the Ravens to the Super Bowl, and now a lot of people hold him in high regard. Think about Tom Brady. Before he even won his first Super Bowl with New England, he was an afterthought. You see, Eli Manning was never viewed as a great regular season quarterback. He's probably only been a top 10 quarterback, twice throughout his NFL career. But what separated Eli Manning from the other quarterbacks? What made Eli Manning so great? His ability to rise in the biggest moments in the postseason. You know, when the playoffs come, you're going to get a different Eli. You're going to get playoff Eli. The Eli Manning that you got in the postseason was never the same one that you got during the regular season. Eli was able to elevate his game in the postseason. Same thing with Joe Flacco. The best quarterbacks are able to elevate their game, not just in the playoffs, but in the regular season also. They're more consistent with it. You look at Kirk Cousins, when has he ever elevated his play in the postseason? He got outplayed by Daniel Jones. Let's just keep it 100. Let's just state some facts here. Did Daniel Jones outplay Kirk Cousins? Yes or no? I think we can all agree with an emphatic yes. And Kirk Cousins was getting outplayed by a quarterback who had way less to work with than what he did. His best weapon was Isaiah Hodgins outside of Saquon. Isaiah Hodgins, fam, who was on the practice squad a couple of weeks before that. And Daniel Jones was out there cooking. Meanwhile, Kirk Cousins was kind of getting in his head, being indecisive. And we saw that with the final play of the Minnesota Vikings season last year, with that check down on 4th and long to TJ Hawkinson. You see, Kirk Cousins is a really good QB. He can get you there, but he's not a quarterback that's going to elevate you over the top. I think that this probably is Kirk Cousins' final season with the Minnesota Vikings. If you're Kevin O'Connell, you look at Kirk Cousins, you shake his hand, you say, we appreciate everything that you've done for this franchise, this organization, and this community, but we're going to go in a different direction. Now, rather if it plays off or not, that's all on Kevin Stefanski and the organization. Kevin Stefanski is an offensive-minded coach, so you trust him to be able to develop his own quarterback. You trust him if you were to trade for a Kyler Murray. It's not going to take that much to give up to get Kyler Murray. And plus, I'm pretty sure Arizona wants to move on from that contract. So they're not going to be asking for multiple first-round picks for Kyler Murray. They will be okay with one first-rounder for Kyler Murray. I don't think Kirk Cousins is going to be a Viking for the next couple of seasons. I think that this probably will be his final season with Minnesota. He's not a bad quarterback. I think he's a pretty good quarterback, but that's the problem with Kirk Cousins. Pretty good in today's NFL. Where is it getting you? Nowhere close to a Lombardi trophy. You saw what happened to the 49ers against the Kansas City Chiefs. You saw Jimmy Garoppolo overthrow Emmanuel Sanders in the most important play of the game. Patrick Mahomes got outplayed by Jimmy Garoppolo in that Super Bowl for the first 4 quarters and a couple of minutes until he woke up the last 8 minutes and went crazy. That's what separates the greats from the average quarterbacks. If you want to know the difference between an elite quarterback and an okay quarterback, watch the Quarterback Netflix documentary. We see it with Kirk Cousins. Prime example. Patrick Mahomes rose to the occasion in the postseason despite having a nasty ankle injury. What did Kirk Cousins do in the big moment? He shrunk. I don't think Kirk Cousins is the future at quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings, and I don't really think they feel so either. I think there's a reason why Kirk Cousins hasn't been extended yet. All these teams haven't hesitated to extend their franchise quarterbacks. Like, look at the New York Giants with Daniel Jones, dog. Daniel Jones got an extension quick after only one good season. You could have used the same argument for him, saying that it was too early to give Daniel Jones an extension after one good season. He had to prove it again. You want to know why the New York Giants paid Daniel Jones despite only 1 year proven success? Because they believe in him as the franchise quarterback. They believe he's the guy. If Minnesota felt Kirk was the guy, I'm pretty sure they would have redid his deal. He would have already been re-signed for another 3-4 years. But the fact that they're willing to negotiate with him after the season in March with free agency around the corner at that time, that kind of shows how Minnesota feels about Kirk Cousins. He's not really a priority right now. They're probably more focused on getting Justin Jefferson locked up for long term than y'all are worried about Kirk Cousins at the moment. And that also gives them time to evaluate, how the quarterback market is going to shape up. But I don't think Kirk Cousins is going to be a Minnesota Viking for too much longer, especially after this season.